So what I wanted to talk about today was my experience with franchises. So I actually was the owner of a franchise, and I actually recently closed it up. Won't get into what the name of it was, but I'll just say that it was in the health sector. I was in there for about 5 years, and I wanted to share some of the things that I can't say I wish that I knew, or just things that I guess I was more aware of, and the impact that they might have had when deciding to get involved in any franchise business. A couple points, but one thing was realize that you overpay for a lot of things within the operation of your business. So the way that most franchises are set up, you pay them a royalty fee, but they also make additional fees based upon vendors and things that you as the franchisee may need to operate your business. They have what they call preferred vendors if they don't provide some of the materials themselves. So for example, let's say if you're in the food sector, if you are selling food, they have particular places where you need to get your food. So if you have bread, they say, okay, use this bread vendor to purchase your bread. Now, that's all well and good, but 9 times out of 10, your franchisor has a deal with that vendor, so they're actually getting a piece of the action. So what tends to happen is you, as the franchisee, just wind up overpaying. And I'm just using the bread as an example, but just think of any vendor that the franchisor tells you to use. Chances are you're overpaying for it, and they're getting a cut of what you're paying. Yeah, it was pretty upsetting, just knowing that you were just overpaying for things, and you pretty much had no choice, because that's part of what you sign up for when you rock with franchise. Other thing, and this was a big one, was franchises are like any other sinful thing. Not to say that they're all sinful, but a sinful thing that you would get into. I don't know if you've heard the term. It's easy to get in, but hard to get out. Very easy to get in. You go in, you sign your paperwork, you're signed up, right? Now, one thing that I did not pay heavily attention to, and it can really have some tough implications, is the term and the liquidated damages associated with that term. So when you sign your deal with the franchise, they're usually in blocks. I've seen a lot where it's 5 years. I've seen some that go as far as 10 years. But that basically says that your deal is for that particular period of time. And if for whatever reason, let's say the business isn't working out, and you want to leave or shut it down before that time, you're going to have a hard time getting out. If you decide to just say, hey, this thing isn't working out, and you want to go back and tell them that I don't want to do this anymore and just simply walk away, you can get sued for tons of money if you do that before your term is up. And again, keep in mind, you're signing up for 5 and 10 year blocks. Let's say you sign a 5-year deal, and by year 2, you're like, look, this isn't working, I want out, you're losing money. Your franchisor can sue you if you just decide to walk away before it is time. Now, you can sell. Most franchisors will allow you to sell your branch or your company before time, so you could do that, and you can get out before time, but understand that if you're selling, chances are that you're not doing well, you're not making money. It's not really an attractive asset at that point. You won't find too many takers unless you get that person that's really looking to come through the whole turnaround deal. But you're at the mercy of someone that wants to come in and buy it, because if no one wants to buy, then you're pretty much stuck until your term runs out. Another thing that you have to consider, and this is actually something that happened with me, was that I had went to sell, and any sale that you make with an individual, that buyer not only has to do a deal with you, they also have to form their own franchise agreement with the franchisor. So when you're selling and that buyer comes in, they essentially have to sign 2 contracts, one with you and one with the franchisor. And guess what? The franchisor can essentially kill your deal, which in essence had actually happened to me, where I had went to sell, went as far as we worked out the terms, had the paperwork drawn up, buyer left me a deposit. So we were pretty far along the deal. Everything was pretty much said and done as far as myself and the buyer in this instance. However, when it came down time for the buyer to work their deal out with the franchise, they couldn't come to terms. So as much as I tried to mediate to try to push the deal through, franchise didn't want to budge. And guess what? Killed the deal. So it got to the point where I was packing up. I was telling people goodbye because I was pretty sure that this thing was going to happen. And franchise stepped in at the last minute, killed the deal. They couldn't come to terms. And being that they couldn't come to terms, my deal was essentially null and void. You don't realize that how much sway when you're first signing up that franchisor has over you as a franchisee. Another, I guess this will be my last point, is that really don't have control over the brand. And it's really with the brand, right? When you get into business and you pour your heart and your soul into the business, part of that business is you're building your brand, you're building your reputation. And as I kind of started thinking about it and looking back and realizing is that it's ultimately a brand that you do not control. When you sign that agreement, there are many things that, even down to advertising, what you can carry, they want things very uniform. So if you come up with particular ideas that you may want to try to implement to promote, in most instances it needs to be cleared by the franchisor. You pour your heart and your soul into the business and the brand. When it's all said and done, you don't own the brand. You're promoting this brand and you're pushing it and you're building it up, and you're paying money to promote a brand that you don't own. Now, I would say it's a bit different if it's a situation where the brand is already a household name. So McDonald's or Chick-fil-A, it's one of those things where if the sign comes up, people will come. Cool. I have no problem with that. The brand has been built out. Part of you becoming a franchise is you, the brand. And I think that works if the brand is established. But in the event where a brand is not established, which was the case for me, I essentially paid to promote a brand. Now, I guess the trade-off is that, yeah, you were using it and you were making some money, but the party's over. There's nothing more I can do with that brand. It seems a bit flawed to me for pushing something that you ultimately don't control and own, which is part of the reason why most folks want to get into business. So yeah, so those are some of the things that, again, I wish I shouldn't say knew, but I guess put more thought into it before getting involved with a franchise. A lot of these things mattered more so to me because I was an owner-operator. I was in the weeds. I was in the thick of it. I was doing it day in, day out, at least for the most part. I had help, but it wasn't a passive investment for me. I would say these things wouldn't be as much of an issue if you are taking more of the passive route. I'm just thinking examples of, let's say, a Shaq or Peyton Manning, and they got Papa John's franchises, but they got 30 of them. Obviously, they're not operating now. They have operators in place. They get their money from what is generated. They go home. Cool. I think something like that works. It's already an established brand. It's a good investment. You're parking money. The infrastructure is already there. The brand is already there. That works. Maybe if I find myself back in a position where I have extra money and you have other operators in place, I may get involved in one of those type of situations. I'm able to be more of a passive investor. But yeah, that's my spiel as far as how I think franchises would work. That's all for now. Hopefully I'll be able to bring more things to you, both in business, tax, finances, accounting. Talk to you next time. Take care.